Something a little different from me on here that I've decided to share. Obviously, for those of you who know me, you don't even need to know me quite well. As long as you know me a little bit, I think you'll know who I support. Unfortunately, I'm a Leeds fan. It's not been the greatest of times lately to follow the club, but I decided to cast a little bit of a sharper eye over the way the team was set up on Wednesday night against Derby County in what was quite a big game for both sides. It's always quite a big rivalry between the two clubs, and the atmosphere is very intense. And I was interested to see how Paul Heckingbottom, the new coach, was really going to approach this game, because Leeds had to be very cautious, especially playing against the Derby County side, who were right up there in the top four, top five in the table. And I was interested to see how their approach was going to be to the game, because Leeds themselves very much on the fringe of dropping into mediocrity for the rest of the season and having nothing to play for. But also on the flip side, if they can start to pick up points, and when I say start, I mean it has to start. Really, it has to start in the next game on Saturday if they're to be serious about challenging for the playoffs. But this was a game which Leeds couldn't afford to lose. And I think all fans would agree that they couldn't afford to lose it. And I don't necessarily think that was the mentality that Paul Heckingbottom wanted to go into the game with. I don't think the players did either. And I think they, in reality, wanted to be positive, wanted to go out there with the mindset that this is a must-win game and we are going all out to win. But I think the reality is that Leeds couldn't afford to lose this one, because if they did lose, especially away from home, it would be a very long road through to the end of the season with not much to play for. So ultimately ending in a 2-2 draw, it still gives them a chance, very slight chance, but they have to start picking up home points from here on out. So what I've decided to do anyway is, I'll get through to the point here. I decided to analyse the first goal that Leeds scored on Wednesday night, and it looked very Route 1 from a neutral perspective. Obviously, the number 5, Liam Cooper, the left centre-back, he picked up the ball and he's played that long ball out to the right winger, the number 7 over there, Stuart Dallas, who's then served the ball in early to Lasogga, the number 9, who made a good run in between the 4 and 5 to get his head on the ball. And before you know it, Leeds were 1-0 up in a bit of a smash and grab counter-attack of sorts. But it was very Route 1. And I've decided I'm going to analyse the mechanics of this play a little bit more, because there was actually some good, intelligent play from Leeds inside of this. And also potentially, obviously, we can't get inside the mind of the coach, but it might give you an idea of what Paul Heckingbottom is wanting to do with the team and the system in these tight games moving forward. Because it was evident Leeds were set up to be solid and compressed and compact. They weren't trying to play an open game the first half, excuse me. They were very much trying to be compact, compressed, and I think they were hoping for exactly what they got, which turned out to be enticing a press from Derby and then hitting that long switch into some hopefully more open space, which is exactly what they got. And I'm just going to run through it. So essentially what happened was Liam Cooper was in plenty of space there, the number 5, and he had a direct split pass that was open. The passing lane was very open for that long high switch. As long as he cleared the men in front of him, that ball was always going to find its way to Stuart Dallas, because the yellow zone over there, plenty of space for Dallas to work in that he found himself in. So that was essentially the money ball within this goal. That was the one that really put Leeds in a position to execute that final ball in from Dallas, and Lasogga just really had to get a touch on the ball for it to go in. But what they did around that, the players who were inactively involved, Pablo Hernandez, he played left wing, so I've got him down there as the number 11. Most creative player on the team for Leeds, drew a lot of attention, didn't have his best game on Wednesday night, but nevertheless, Derby County are very aware that if the ball's at his feet, he can twist and turn, and he's a very good dribbler with speed, and he can make things happen in the final third. So based on the position he was in, Derby didn't want him to pick the ball up at his feet in that area, because if he can turn on it there, he's driving into that final third with Lasogga and Roof, who was number 10, and De Bock, the number 3, who'd stayed high and wide. They were all supporting around him. So Derby kind of isolated Hernandez here by the 2 and 6 were paying a lot of attention to him. And that kind of helped Leeds create that overload of space. Now, what De Bock did, the left back, the number 3, he stayed very high and wide at this point. He's actually out of the camera when you watch the game back. But because of that, the number 7 for Derby was a little bit torn. He kind of sat in that hole between Hernandez and De Bock. He wanted to offer the balance, and he didn't want to step high and give De Bock that space and entice Liam Cooper into that wide pass, with Hernandez already out there quite close to De Bock as well. So the 7 sat, and I think De Bock's positioning was fantastic there, because it allowed Cooper the time and space to obviously pick his pass, but it also kept Derby honest and denied them pressing too high. But what did happen in turn is Adam Forshaw, the number 8, who'd played the ball to Cooper, he'd attracted 2 players to him. He was in the middle third of the field, but he was looking for that positive pass, and Derby wanted to deny the positive pass. So the 8 and 10 for Derby, they both stepped to Forshaw without really having supporting pressure coming from behind, as the 4 and 5 and 3 were all quite flat, and I don't think they closed the gap early enough. And I think because of this, I think based on my opinion, and again, this is only my opinion, the Derby 3 got quite impatient, because I think he realised that Forshaw had a little bit too much time and space, and by the time the 8 and 10 actually closed that positive passing lane down, the 3 had already took it upon himself to slide in and up to really compress that middle zone. At this point, Kemar Roof, the number 10, wasn't really a threat. He was kind of just trying to make his way into a forward positioning. Lasogga was the highest player forward as well. And so I think the 3 just decided we wanted to, in a Derby perspective, we want to cut this central passing lane. They really wanted to deny that ball getting anywhere near Hernandez. And obviously Hernandez has drifted a little bit inside on that left. He was on the left edge, but he was quite inside the field. So what's happened there is, as Forshaw's released the ball, he's released it at a great time, because I think the 3 has just stepped in. And in doing so, Stuart Dallas has a ton of space on that right-hand side. Meanwhile, Ronaldo Vieira, the number 6, he's the holding mid for Leeds United, he'd pulled himself right out of that central pocket and actually essentially put himself in a right-back role, allowing Berardi, the number 2, to push high and wide onto the halfway line. By doing this, Leeds had a lot of space to play out into if they were under pressure. So the centre-backs had options at this point in time. And I think the issue for the number 11 for Derby was, and the number 11 kind of got caught in no man's land, he wasn't sure whether the ball was maybe going to swing back to the right side, so he was debating whether to be ready to press, or he was also not sure whether to drop and slide in where the 3 had just stepped out of. Because as you can see by my arrow there, the number 3 is sliding inside to cover that central zone and really compress the space. So the number 11 gets a little lost. At the same time, the number 4 for Derby becomes isolated too, because the 6 and 2 are too focused on Hernandez. That means the 4 is now looking at Kemar Roof, the number 10, who's making a forward run as soon as Cooper plays that long diagonal switch to Stuart Dallas. So within this passage of play, as Cooper hits that ball, Lasogga, the number 9, has got himself in an absolutely fantastic position, a dream position for a forward. He's in between the 4 and 5, the opposing centre-backs, and he's on the blind side shoulder of the 5, while he's also about 5, 6, maybe 7 yards away from the 4. So he's got plenty of space in front of the 4, and he's on the blind side of the 5. Great positioning to be in as soon as Stuart Dallas receives that ball. And obviously we see why on the video, but Dallas has put a great ball into the box. Really dangerous ball. I mean, the keeper could have done better, but the 4 and 5 for Derby certainly got caught. Lasogga snuck into the pocket, and all he had to do was get a touch on the ball to put it away. But found it interesting how Leeds set up there. I thought the fact that Vieira pulled out, the number 6, I thought the fact that he pulled out and almost kind of sat in that right side position along with Janssen and Cooper as that ball was played, I think he opened space for Forshaw initially to receive the ball, while he also kind of put the 11 and 9 for Derby into a little bit of limbo, because they weren't really sure where the ball may go next, as Leeds had created a right side overload, of course, as you can see the 6, 2 and 7 out there. Plenty of options out there if the ball was on the floor as well. But they've also got good options on the left side, with the Bock pushing extremely high as Cooper received the ball, and Hernandez drifting inside, which attracted a lot of attention. So it really allowed Lasogga to kind of get on that blind side of the 5, and the 3 got a little impatient and tucked in. And then as soon as Stuart Dallas got that ball, it was just a case of could he put it in the right area for Lasogga to get a touch, which of course he did. So it was an interesting dynamic that I wanted to look at. Leeds obviously set up not to lose this game. It was a really important one. Whether their playoff hopes are done or not, that's not my opinion. As a fan, you always hope they're not. But they'd have certainly been done if they'd have lost this game. And I think the way that Heckingbottom set up initially for Leeds was to look and probe for these openings and entice the pressure from Derby, which I think, at the right times they did. They certainly did. And it paid off, especially on the second occasion too. That was more of a counter-attack at speed. But again, Leeds caught Derby high, caught Derby a little bit impatient and a little bit needy, and took advantage of it. So there's no doubt Leeds have got the players to play this kind of system. And obviously, the other side of the coin is how well they can defend and hopefully start restricting the concessions that they've been giving up. So hopefully a little bit of insight there for some of you who might be interested, and really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me chat about it. I don't really do this often. I try not to talk about Leeds United too much on my account, because there's only so many people interested in it. There's only so many, and there's also a lot of people who aren't interested. So there you go.